Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Behind the Group podcast. I am DJ Keo.
And I am Basil Barrington, and we are back with a film review. Today, we are
Mhm.
going to review Tetris. Tetris is on Apple TV. It's an original Apple TV movie. And IMDb gave it a 7.4 thus far. What do you think about that? 7.4.
I would rate it higher, but we'll talk about the ratings after. But like, I thought this movie was excellent,
This joint
especially
was.
because like I
Mhm.
was a kid when all this stuff was happening, and I remember the Game Boy being bundled with it in school. And I thought this was the coolest thing ever. I played. I was heavy in Tetris. I played that game a lot. So like having the retelling because I never knew the history or whatever how this came about, and it's such a wild story because this is the height of communism still, and and the stuff they had to do to go back and forth. Like this guy put his life, his family's life, everything on the line to get this game over to Nintendo. And yeah, it was cool. I was kind of disappointed though when I read up a little bit more about it, and they said the car chase was fabricated. Like the two guys in the movie that actually the movie's about, they're like, nah, that didn't happen. We just
Yeah,
went back to the airport. We got to make the plane. It's fine.
yeah.
But like that kind of let me down though because I was like, this is exciting. But like the whole concept about going into this deep behind enemy lines to get this game, which is basically given to the state because they're communists, so it's the state's property. So he has no rights over this thing. And the cool thing about it was that he did the right thing and got this guy out so he could get to reap the benefits from his code. But like the movie overall, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great acting. Everything was great for me.
Yeah.
What you think about the movie?
I love this movie, man. This movie had everything in it. You had great writing, great actors.
Hmm.
Production
Yeah,
value was dope. Everything looked good. It wasn't shot in Russia for obvious reasons. It was
yeah,
shot in
yeah.
Scotland. you know,
Yeah, I can't believe Scotland they look so dreary like that. That's crazy.
Scotland, parts of that looks like that. And this movie, the budget for this movie, what do you think the budget was for this movie?
I don't know. It's got to be like 20, 30 million.
80 million.
But it was wow. Okay, I can see that. I can see that.
80 million. Like
It
that may have been when you again, I now have to compare movies and budgets
yeah, yeah. The
based on
budgets, yeah.
everything everywhere all at once, and also the Woman King. These are 20
Hmm.
and $50 million movie productions, and what a $25 million movie as in
Yeah, yeah.
everything everywhere all at once did, and now we're still spending $80 million on movies. But it is
Yeah,
what
so
it
see, that's
is.
why I lowballed it and said it was like 20, 30 because like it
Mhm.
was all shot in Scotland.
Yeah,
They as far as like special effects, there wasn't that much
really
into it.
not that
It
really.
wasn't
It
like
wasn't that
anything
much really.
crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, because they maybe did the animations, but that didn't cost that much.
Yeah.
There wasn't, maybe at the green screen some places to make it look more like Russia. Like they had to throw some tanks on there or whatever. But
Yeah.
I guess that the bulk of the CGI was the tanks and the parade and a little bit of the city to kind of make it look more communist, like old ancient
Right.
Russia,
Exactly.
1980 Russia.
Hmm.
I guess that's the bulk of it. But like it wasn't CGI intensive like fight wise or whatever
Yeah.
or
No.
special effects. But
It
it was yeah. Go ahead.
it also surprised me that like throughout this entire movie,
Mhm.
people were excited about. And again, this is like the Soviet Union. This is like during the Cold War, right? Um,
Yeah.
it surprised me that people were getting excited about like they would sell all the rights, for $40,000 or even $5 million.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow,
Because
really?
the video games was like a hobby for fun. Like it wasn't that big. Like did you play computer games like with the floppy disk and all that stuff?
Dude,
Yeah, so
listen,
you
all
lived it,
day.
man. We
Mhm.
all lived it. This is all close to home for us, like as far as that time, because we were about that age when all this stuff was happening, and like video games was like a trinket for kids. It wasn't like today. You're looking at video game industry as like a multi-billion-dollar thing. It's bigger than Hollywood at this point. But back then, you're like, this thing's never gonna blow up. We don't have to worry about it.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
I remember I kept begging my mother for like a Commodore 64. And she finally
Yeah,
got me
yeah.
one for Christmas, right? And I'm just like, the Commodore 64 was just the bee's knees. It was it
It
until
was
Atari
it.
came
That
up,
was the
until
thing to
Nintendo
have.
came
Yeah.
up, but the Commodore 64, that was it. And it
Mhm.
also, and I was just like, wow. So, you're going through all this. And here is something else that is super duper duper interesting about this movie. Robert Maxwell, right?
Yeah. The mogul, the
Right.
billionaire.
Robert Maxwell is the father of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh,
Yes.
I did not
Yes.
know that.
Yes. Because
did
I
not know.
kept
You're
looking at it and I was like,
right.
wait a minute. Like, Robert Maxwell, that name
Right.
sounds familiar. And then when they rolled the credits, they were like, he was, he committed suicide, which he did like in a Caribbean somewhere, right? No one knows
Mhm.
how, right? And I was just like, holy
Yeah.
crap. And that was the whole story. He was like Murdoch before Murdoch. He was Rupert Murdoch before Rupert
Yeah.
Murdoch. And he had all this money.
That's
He had all
right.
this stuff. He had a bunch of kids. I think he had 9 kids or something like that. And he was just a
That's
big party
right.
animal. And he lost everything because he was dipping into the pension fund. And, like a lot of people did during like the Great Depression in like the 30s, a lot
Mhm.
of people started committing suicide when they lost everything. And that's pretty much what happened. But Robert
Yeah.
Maxwell, the father of
I
Ghislaine Maxwell.
I did not realize that, but you're right. That
Yep.
is right. Because
hmm
he was a mogul and he had a lot of magazines and stuff like that.
Right.
He's like a publishing mogul.
Mhm.
That's right. Oh man, that puts a new light on this movie because this son's a scumbag, man.
Yeah, for real. It also goes to show you it also goes to show you like the shystiness of like a lot of this stuff back in the day. They really didn't
Mhm.
have a true license to license this stuff out to anyone or anything.
Yeah.
But once they got it out of Russia, they were just like, hey, we have the code. Let's just like start
Yeah,
making
like F
money.
it.
Yeah.
You know what? I never saw Tetris in an arcade. I cannot remember ever seeing it in an arcade. I
Yeah,
only
man.
My first introduction to Tetris was on a computer and the Game Boy.
Mm,
That's the only time I saw it. And
okay.
I had the computer version of it, and I never had a Game Boy. I was a Sega and Nintendo and Atari guy,
Mhm.
but yeah, I do remember my friend came to school one day and he had it, and I was like, oh damn, this is cool. I like this. But
We
yeah,
used to go
it's
down to the
real fascinating.
We used to go down to the Jersey Shore sometimes, and Tetris,
Mhm.
the arcade version, it was just like so many people around it. There was, I
I
remember
I
people,
never saw it.
I remember someone would put a quarter into the machine or a dime, whatever it was,
Mhm.
and this person was just like a master. People would be around this person watching them go through all the different levels of Tetris and just like, wow. Because, eventually it gets harder and harder and
Yeah, it
harder
goes
and harder.
faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen they have tournaments where Tetris masters are on there, and
Wow.
the reflex time on these guys is insane.
Yeah.
It defies like it's like almost like they're Jedi's or something like that. Like the skill level, because you gotta think like 4 steps ahead. We're gonna put this block,
Right.
and watching a tournament with these guys in there is incredible. Like
Yeah.
you have newfound respect for the people who play this game. But yeah, like that's been my thing with it. Like I was always a big fan of the game, and they're right from the movies aspect. It is super addictive.
It
It was
really
one of those
is.
first games, like you know how they have those like Candy Crush and that kind of stuff right now.
hmm
That's on the phone. And that's other people are doing it,
Yeah.
addicted to it. Like that game was the first game that I've seen people couldn't put it down till the batteries went out or the power went out on their computer. Like
Yep.
they were playing it just like glued to the computer screen.
Listen,
Do
man,
you, do you remember
mhm.
that episode in Star Trek when they had some game? It's like this thing that was on their head,
Yes.
and it's like that
hmm
little thing. Everyone they took over the whole ship, so pirates
Right.
could come on there.
Yep.
That's what Tetris was like. You
Yep.
don't realize Tetris was like that.
That was a
People
Star
walking
Trek
into the
Next
walls playing
Generation
it.
episode, and
Yes, yeah.
the only ones who were not affected by that was
This is
Crusher at some
Jordy.
point and
Yeah,
Data. That's it. But
yeah.
everyone else was like, and it was crazy. Yeah, I remember that joint for real. Yeah, man.
Like put the
So
headset on.
exactly. So this movie here. So again, this was a great movie, about 2 hours long.
Mm,
You know what? Apple TV is not. they're just they're snooty. They're like uppity when it comes to their
It's
production.
very uppity.
Yeah. It's just like we're not gonna put out any trash. We're not. I mean, Macbeth. Come
Yeah.
on. Apple TV put out Macbeth, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
They're I would call it arrogance, but they have like it's like a high class, high level of cinema
yeah,
and TV shows they're putting on there for certain type of clientele. Not even fans of TV, clientele.
yeah,
That's what Apple TV's doing. And
exactly.
I'm here for it. Like I like Ted Lasso. There's a couple good shows on there, and
Foundation is
I've seen a
great,
couple movies.
you know.
Yeah, I've seen a couple movies, and I get what they're doing. They want high quality.
They
So
have the
kudos to them.
I think they have the Steph Curry documentary on
Mhm.
Apple TV now. So great quality,
Yeah.
the whole nine. Like I said, I think what they're doing, like because obviously, the way they made the color grading of this movie, the way they made it look so dreary, almost like there was no sun, right? Almost
Yeah,
like
that's what
you're in
Russia
like,
look like.
yeah, almost like you're in North Korea or something. I was like reading an article like years ago when
Mhm,
they were talking about satellite images on the west coast of America and
mhm.
North Korea. Just night satellite pictures and
Yeah,
how
it's nuts.
all of like California is lit up, but then you look at
Mhm.
the satellite pictures of North Korea and it's like
There's like 2
one light,
lights.
two lights.
This
That's
is a
it.
castle.
Just like wow, this is
Rumor's
crazy.
palace is that when wherever the pleasure land landed,
Yeah,
the girls, that's it. Everything else
absolutely
is black.
crazy. And what else was interesting about this movie is, the guy coded up the whole game, and then he was
Mhm.
like, no, 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 no. In Russia, the government owns everything. So he made this
Yeah, that's
game.
wild.
The government was getting paid. He got
Mhm,
nothing until he was like, he went out of America. He left. I'm sorry. He left. The Soviet Union. Went to America.
mhm.
Started a new company with Hank Rogers, and then made a boatload
Yeah.
of money. And that was the only way he was able to like make money off of all of the blood, sweat, and tears he put into like coding up that game. And it was also interesting that in the beginning he was
Mhm.
just using brackets opposed to
Yeah,
everything else.
yeah.
That's kind of cool, right?
It's wild how far, like, this has come, like, the color version of the game from
Yes.
where it originally was with the brackets
Hmm.
and just basically flipping things around, and, like, the cool thing about it was, like, it ran like, I remember when you tried to install Tetris, it ran on any kind of computer.
Yeah. Hmm.
It was good enough to run on anything. Didn't matter how fast your computer was, like it was an X86 chip or whatever, like original stuff. The pieces of trash they had back then, they had like the megabytes. They even have like terabytes, or it was like a half a megabyte or whatever. It ran on anything and ran smooth on anything, which is a testament to this guy's coding. Like it was genius level what they put together on this.
Hmm.
Like, what did you think of like the basic plot points of how the game and like how it came to be and how everyone's chasing after it?
I think it was pretty interesting because first and foremost, according to
Mhm.
Hank, the Japanese had it, right? So he thought he bought a
Yeah.
license from, Microsoft, but actually he didn't buy a license, So
Mhm.
the Japanese was like, oh wow, but they also understood that the craze of the game would be really interesting if they placed it on
Mhm.
the brand new Game Boy once it was released, right? So
Yeah.
the whole movie was really, it was kind of based on greed and capitalism,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
the other underlying other the other plot point was like the desolate, like just everything happening in Russia, right? How you don't own anything.
Mhm.
Why work? Why create things, right? It's just like you can't. They
Yeah, you
own
get
everything.
you're doing it for the love of the country, which
Yeah.
I think is the good. It was a good juxtaposition between the two.
Hmm.
Like you had this guy that made this video game just to give it to his friends and family, and it blew up.
Yep.
And whereas you had companies that were like, we need to make money from this thing,
Hmm.
and these two parts are at odds with each other about just doing it for fun and just the experience of playing it and whatever, like like playing chess or whatever with your friends. It's that dichotomy between the two of them. Like we've kind of got to the point now as far as video games where it's like this has to make a certain amount of money, otherwise we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And you get that as a business standpoint, but like the games aren't really fun because it's designed in a way to make the money back rather than just be just a neat fun thing to do. And I think that's a huge problem with the video game industry. Like I have a Xbox and I use it to watch Apple TV and
Hmm.
I use it to watch YouTube, whatever. I haven't played games in it like in a year or two. Like it's just a lot of the games that come out right now. I'm just like, like I
Yeah,
have my core things that I like playing, but like
right.
I just don't care. Like I use it for streaming at
Yeah,
this point.
exactly. And the other thing is like again, you had a lot of greed and capitalism, but you
Mhm.
did have, and the greed came from like the Microsoft and this guy Stein,
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
just like,
It wasn't from everybody. There's a lot of the bad actors in there.
right,
They created the greed.
exactly. Hank wanted to do it right. He wanted to, he made a boatload of money, just like
Mhm,
getting the rights and, being able to do, get the rights for handhelds, right? So that's
mhm,
pretty interesting. The other thing is this, right? Back then, video games were completely pure. What I mean by that is this.
mhm,
Back back then, you can buy a video game, you can buy a console, you can buy a handheld. No one was
mhm.
tracking your data, right?
Yeah, you have to be connected to the internet. It's
Right,
just like,
uh-huh.
just play this game, have fun.
Today, you get Candy Crush, all this other stuff, games on your iPad, games on your iPhone, your Android devices, whatever. The data
Mhm,
is being collected, dude, and it's being sold. And it's just like,
mhm.
hey, this is how our video game is done. I mean, that's good information to have as a company, right? But it's so much
Mhm.
more than like just, you putting out an awesome video game, an awesome product for like users to
Yeah.
enjoy. You're getting so much more of that. And it wasn't like that. That back then, the video game the video game scene was pure.
Mhm.
Even when you got the
Yeah, yeah.
Ataris, even when you got the Segas, even when you got the Commodore 64, it was just about playing and having fun. That's it.
Yeah, that's the core of it has kinda gotten away from it now because, we went from this game is the product versus the person playing the game is the product now.
Yeah.
And that's a huge shift in why you make something. Because right now, like they only make the big budget video games. They focus on that and games that is going to bleed your content, your address book, and your database and your
Yep.
contacts.
Hmm.
That is your two options. Is $100 million game or whatever it costs that costs $80 at the store, or this game that's free that's addictive, but it's here to bleed your information.
Right.
That's the only type of games you get right now,
I think
which kind of sucks.
it sucks. I think the other interesting thing was when when they unveiled the Game Boy and he started reading off the specs. He was like, it
Mhm.
has a 1 megabyte, processor. It has, a zero point 0.5 gigahertz, blah. I'm just like, I was like,
Yeah, I was laughing at that.
1 megahertz. I'm like, really, as a processor? I'm like, wow. But you know what? He was saying it
Mhm.
as if it was like really powerful, and
It
it
was state
was
of the
back
art
then.
at the time.
Yes,
Yeah, it
yes,
was.
exactly. And I'm just like,
And it's so
wow.
funny.
Mhm.
TurboGrafx 16 came out with their thing, their handheld one, which is like 16-bit graphics and colors and everything
Mhm.
like that. And it couldn't put a candle to this old Game Boy. Still to this day, and the was it Lynx that Atari had, and Sega had I forgot what Sega was called, Game Gear.
Game Gear,
Yeah,
yes. Mhm.
same Sega had the Game Gear, which I had, which I
Mhm.
thought was the most amazing thing because of color, but it didn't matter. Game
Yep.
Boy was still crushing these guys. It didn't matter,
Handheld, dude,
and
Mhm.
it came down to the games, and like Nintendo was looking at this thing of let's make stuff that's fun, whereas these guys are trying to play catch up to Nintendo of well, we got to put more colors on here. That's what gets people in there. It's more. It was the fun. It was the community aspect of playing the Game Boy. Is that little thing like that? That's why like the Tetris was such a big deal at the time
Yeah.
because this thing was like it was a thing that you play by yourself or you play with your friends, you pass it around. And I think there was a Tetris you could link up the Game Boy together with another Game Boy.
Yeah,
I
and
think that was
back
the
in the
one you
day,
could
they
do.
had those like I don't want to call them a SCSI drive, but almost like the SCSI plugs where you can just plug up one
Yeah,
into another
they were
one.
plugged. They could connect
Right.
together. I believe. Don't quote me on that. I
Mhm.
believe, but that
No,
was the
I
thing.
remember
Like,
seeing that. I remember seeing that where you
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
connect it, for real.
Yeah, but like I was just saying, like the way that Game Boy was targeted and presented to people, it was a community thing that you did together. Where
Yep.
these other ones was just like, this is better, this is faster, it's got
Mhm.
colors, and
Yeah.
that's why they won.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
That's it, man. And but the movie was it was pretty on point, man. I was like, I enjoyed it. I watched the the plot was so interesting that it just took you from the
Mhm.
start to end. And I love movies like that where they start off and they end the same way. Just very exciting, very enjoyable to watch.
Yeah,
And again, Apple, man, Apple just knows what they're doing, man. You can't front on Apple for real. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't watched anything on Apple. This is no lie. I have not
Mhm.
watched any original Apple TV Plus, movie or TV series that they have created that sucked. I have not
Mhm.
at all. And I haven't watched everything, but everything that I have watched, it was pretty good
Mhm.
on Apple TV Plus.
There's a high quality control on there, but
Yeah.
yeah, like it's something about the movie took you in because you started with him like talking to his banker, who's Korean, by the way.
hmm
I love when Hollywood just like they interchange
They just
Asians. Like, there's
flip
no
it,
big deal.
It's like
This
it
Korean
doesn't
guy, he's in a
matter.
Japan bank. All right,
Yeah.
sure, whatever. Like, but it starts there, and the way he started telling this story, I'm like, yo, I'm in. The first 2 minutes of this movie, I was like, I'm in. Let's
Yep.
go.
And that's
And like
where and then it all started from there. He's like, I'm in, and it started, right?
yeah, yeah. And
hmm
just like the interest in how it was written, it's worth watching. Like anyway, the basic plot is that this guy here, he's American living in Japan with his family, and he gets rights to stuff and he sells it back to these companies. That's it. That's the plot right there.
That's it. Yep.
And he sees this game at a convention and he's like, holy crap, I need the rights for this, and I gotta get this into Nintendo. That's the plot right there. It's as
That's it.
simple as that.
hmm
But the way the story was told and the fact that he had to go back and forth, like this was personal cost to him.
Yeah.
Like he put everything on the line, like his house, his family. He took everything on the line to make this thing happen. And like stories like this, like I was excited because I wanted to see him win over the big bad conglomerate company,
Right.
especially because of who that Maxwell guy is. But like I wanted to see him
Robin
win,
Maxwell.
just the underground
hmm
underdog. Like I wanted to see that guy win. It's something about that. Like it's a great way to tell a story. Like it's obvious. This is storytelling 101, but in this particular instance, like I was interested, I was invested because like this particular game was like near and dear to my heart. It was one of the first games I played on a computer, and I
hmm
love this game. I still love it. Like to this day, I love it, and it's worth a watch right there. You have
Yeah.
to watch this.
If you are like, and there is also a bit of nostalgia too. It's just like, hey, and
Mhm.
even though there was some embellishment, I'm okay with that.
There
This is
is a lot
art.
of embellishment.
But it's art. I'm okay with that. The movie still
Yeah,
turned
yeah,
out
yeah.
great. It was still a great looker.
Mhm.
Direction, everything, showrunner, everything. Apple's not playing around.
Yeah.
Period. They're not playing around. So let's wrap this up. Apple TV Plus original movie Tetris. What are
Mhm.
you going to rate this?
I rate this to 8.5. Tetris is one of my all-time favorite games, and the movie was excellent, start to finish. I recommended this movie to other people, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, I'll check it out." I was like, they
Mhm.
couldn't believe how good the movie is. Like
Yeah.
the movie's shocking how good it is for such a simple thing. It's excellent done. It's really good.
And,
You run out there and go watch it. If you don't have Apple TV, go get it just to watch this movie. It's
yeah.
free.
Yeah, exactly. I am going to rate Tetris a 9. And one of the biggest
Mhm.
reasons why I'm going to give it a 9 is because the movie is so difficult to do this, but the movie was
Yeah.
so focused. It was so focused. When it, like you
Mhm.
said, when the banker was like, I'm all in, it was so focused all the way to the end.
Mhm.
No ridiculousness, no dumbery, no Easter
Yeah,
eggs.
yeah.
I'm okay with the embellishment because this is art, but
Yeah.
it's so rare that you find that you look at one of these movies or TV series on streaming services
Mhm.
that are like so narrowly focused on a specific thing and actually gets it right. They got it right
Yeah.
here. I'm giving it a 9. Great
Nice. This
movie.
is a great movie. Great. It's a heartwarming movie too,
Go check it
because
out.
he
It's on
he
Apple
does some
TV
stuff.
Plus. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
And DJ Keo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, peace.
All right.